Good afternoon and welcome to the 186th episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. This is going to be our last show of 2022. We'll be back in January. Najeh and I will still be doing our show, keep underrated and overlooked. That will be on Tuesday, and we'll get into some of the Georgia Elite Classic news, some recruiting news, and what's going on in that department then, so you can check it out. We'll still have some content up. But today's guest is going to be Ware County head coach Jason Strickland. They're coming off their big state championship win over Warner Robins. We'll talk about that game. Then Najeh Wilkins is going to join us in the second slot, go over some of the recruiting news that's happening today. And then we're going to have Jordan Dubroff on to talk about the games going back to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then what he saw at Center Park Stadium last weekend on Friday when he was watching those games in the downpour. Some good games on Friday. But we'll go ahead and get started with Coach Strickland. Coach, welcome on.
Hey, Craig, I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for having me.
You bet. It's a perfect time. I was so impressed with the way your team came out, the confidence they displayed. Really just played an outstanding game and kind of won that in style, that historic first ever program. So just talk about how special of an occasion that was, the community support, and just what it meant to finally get it done.
Well, I know I sound like a broken record, but I've said so many times this year, just, what an incredible group of seniors that we've had. And, we all came together 4 years ago when I came to Ware County. They were walking into high school at the same time. And we thought back then that it was a group that could, be a really, really good group. You don't ever project that, hey, it's a crowd that could go win a state championship or something like that. But, it just goes to, show the community support that we have here, how they have embraced us since we got here, this administration, and the importance they put in athletics and giving us an opportunity to do the things that we felt like we needed to do to be successful our way, not saying that anything before us was done wrong. We just do things a little bit different, we think. And when you get up to all of a sudden you're in the state championship game and you're looking around and you look back behind you on that home side at Center Park, and it's just full of green and gold. It was a pretty special moment, and I couldn't be more proud for our kids, our community, our school system.
Absolutely. So Ware County has a high standard. You guys are outstanding year after year, but it seems like you had just a group of seniors that were hungry to get it done this year. I mean, how huge is that? Just when you have a group of seniors that just does not want their season to come to an end and just has that one goal in mind.
Well, we had been close several times, and we thought last year we were good enough to win the thing. And I've always said you got to be more than good. You got to have just things go your way that maybe you're not expecting. You got to be able to overcome a bad night and find a way to win, or a bad call, or whatever it may be. And this is a group that just didn't blink, and they truly believed in the idea of just playing the next play. And we lost some unbelievable football players off last year's team, some of the best guys I've ever coached in my life. So we just didn't know exactly what we were going to be. We thought we had a chance to still be good, but if you'd have said in January I thought we were going to be good enough to play for a state championship, I just didn't know. And but this group of seniors had a chip on their shoulder, and they got tired of hearing that Ware County missed their window, and they came back in January and really just kind of took the whole program over, the way we worked in the weight room, after school programs. And then once we got into spring ball, we really started feeling like, man, this could be a special group.
Absolutely. And so you guys were undefeated, so you guys did have that number one ranking for most of the season, but there was definitely an apparent chip on your shoulder all season. I think we all saw it with the way you guys came out and kicked what against Warner Robins. But so you were talking about the 2021 season. I thought, you guys played outstanding in that one. You guys did match up with Warner Robins in the region. They go out of your region this season. Obviously, you inevitably match them again because they're back in their sixth straight championship. So kind of what did last year show you about the team getting the first ever win over Warner Robins, and just how did that give your team confidence just to go square to square with them again?
Well, 2 years ago we lost to them at their place. They put together an unbelievable drive right at the end of the game. It was like 96 yards, something like that, to beat us 2019. And we kind of left that night thinking, if they're the best team in the state, which we thought they were, then we're not far away. And you get to this next year, and all of a sudden you're playing them at our place, 2021, big time region game, and we had moments early in the season there that we had not played exactly the way we thought we should, but we had a big win over Coffee the week before, and that really kind of got us rolling. And then here comes this juggernaut in Warner Robins, and we're able to play really well that night, get the win, and go and win the region. So I think it's one of those things where our guys really enjoy playing those type of people, and it's not something that they're going to get intimidated by. Our guys feel like every Friday night's a gigantic game for them, the way our community supports us. And, so it's not one of those deals where they're going to be kind of in awe of who they're playing. They're fully expecting to go out and play well, no matter who it is. And if we don't win, then we'll try to regroup. But I think certainly having those guys in the region, being familiar with them over the last couple of years, helped us last Saturday.
Yeah, and I mean, Ware County was 0-3 before that in their championship appearances. You have come close, whether it's at Lamar County, Fitzgerald, Pierce County. So, I mean, you guys have been there before. Just what does it mean, though, to come to Ware County in 2020, kind of see that this was the year to potentially get it done, and then for the group to just come together and give the Gators their first ever state title? That's got to feel special just as a coach and just seeing the guys be able to celebrate it.
It's incredibly special, Craig. And, we had been close so many times. And, at some point you start looking in the mirror and thinking, it's, how many opportunities you're going to get at this thing. And I know Ware County's been close. They've won a bunch of games. And, our community had heard so many times they couldn't win the big one. And I think I even said it Saturday with my interview with John that, people even said it about me and our coaching staff. But, it just goes to show, just don't listen to outside noise and just keep, showing up to work every day and trying to get a little bit better than the day before. And, if you keep doing that and focusing on the things that you control, that, at some point, that thing will bounce. But, I know a lot of guys for a long time and never get a single opportunity to be where we're at right now. And I think it just goes to show kind of the resiliency of our coaching staff, the resiliency of our kids in this community, and of just, hey, we're going to focus on the things we can control. And when we get our shot, we're going to try to make the most of it.
Absolutely. And I think they said it best on the broadcast. You guys were potentially the best team in the state that hadn't yet won a state title. That obviously isn't the case anymore. I want to ask you, though, I mean, how busy has just the past couple of weeks been, whether or not you're preparing for the state title or just dealing with all the recruiting stuff you have to do with each of the players? I mean, I know a lot of the other coaches, their seasons ended a lot earlier, so making this long run obviously was fun, but I mean, how busy has it been?
It's been crazy. I mean, really the last 4 weeks, especially, 1,000. I'm at a event now, waiting to go in and have a week and do some things. But it's part of it, and it's been fun, but it's been a wild ride. And I know a lot of folks have asked me 2 or 3 times this week, hey, has things started to slow down? And no, it's gotten faster. It's up more this week, but it's part of it. A lot of folks are excited, and as well as we're just and grateful that we're a small part of it.
Yeah, and then I got to ask you about Trey Hargrove. I thought he really helped set the tone for you guys. Your defense has been great all season long. That's for sure. You guys barely gave up 100 points all season. Just a tremendous testament to that side of the ball. But, I mean, how was he able to just help set the tone in that game, just be that physical leader for you guys on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, he'll be the single hardest young man I've ever had to replace in my 25 years doing it. I've never been around a guy like him. I mean, it's incredible. But the thing I'll say, Craig, is, that game he played Saturday, he has played every week that he's been in high school. I mean, that I'm just glad people got to see it on a big stage like that. But he has played that game every Friday night that he's played, and you can go look at his stat line about the same thing every week: 10 or 12 tackles, blocking a kick, a forced fumble, two. It's just every week he has been that. And Coach McWhorter has told me 1,000 times when your best football players are your hardest workers, then you got something pretty doggone special to hold on to. And Trey, there's no question, is a senior. Our best football player, certainly our hardest worker, and he set the tone for everybody in our football program.
Yeah, and I thought you guys played a really challenging non-region schedule to start things off. The Benedictine game, Bainbridge, man, they've been outstanding. But I want to talk about the playoff run real quick. What did you think of Chamblee this season? Because, obviously they had a great year. I think they're kind of representative of just how deep Class 5A was this season.
Yeah, I was real impressed with those guys. Number one, they had an incredible game plan. They caused us all sorts of problems with our offense. And, I thought they came in really probably better prepared than we were, and their guys played incredibly passionate. Just a really, really good football program, and they got out on a really, really cold night and kind of started hitting us in the mouth, and we had to get to halftime and regroup and kind of figure some things out. But that we were very, very impressed with those guys.
Yeah, and we're also impressed with your quarterback this season, Nico Smith, a junior. He comes in year one, has big shoes to fill. What did you just say to him before the state championship game? And what does it mean to him to just come over to Ware County? Big expectations, a great team around him, but just to play the way he did, that's huge for him moving forward.
Well, the big thing I told him was just don't forget to have fun. He's not a big emotional guy, and so many times he's looking to move to the next, not really enjoy the moment. And what I told him, make sure you have fun, buddy. This is not easy, and the last time that Ware was in this position 10 years ago. So we'd like to think that we're going to be back in that situation every year, but usually that's not the case. And what an incredible young man. Come in and did everything that was asked of him, and to come in and learn how to be a great teammate, great work ethic, terrific in the classroom, terrific in our community. He's everything that we could ask for, and it's just I couldn't be more proud of that young man.
Yeah, I thought his touchdown pass to Jarvis Hayes to get things going, that was big. You guys went into the half 24-6. Every single game had just basically come down to the wire, last-second plays. Throughout the weekend, you guys were kind of the first team to keep the foot on the gas and run away with it. So what did you see just from the confidence of your team at the break and just how they came out determined to just close it out and continue to run away with it?
Well, it's just the aspect, mentality of the group. It's not looking at the scoreboard. Their mentality is, focus on the very next play that one as well as you possibly can, whether the last one was a good one or a bad one. And, that's been their mentality all year, and so we felt confident going out at halftime that they were going to keep doing that. We didn't start the second half the way we wanted, had the turnover, and then gave up the quick touchdown. But there again, the leadership that we have with that group, immediately came to the sideline. That everybody started yelling, "Just play the next play, play the next play." And we go out, and a couple plays later, after giving up the touchdown, we were able to score, make it 31-13. Felt like we had the control back on our sideline.
Oh, for sure. You guys definitely answered Nico Smith as well. He had the interception. I think he threw 2 more touchdowns in the second half. So, man, so how many guys do you think you're going to be having a sign out of this senior class?
I think 7 for sure, and we'll have a couple other guys that will have some shots, later. But we feel like right now we got. So we're excited for those young people, and they've done it the right way because they're not just great football players, but they've got great GPAs, test scores, and they're just well-rounded guys.
Yeah, and another thing that stood out, you guys covered so well on special teams. I feel like that's probably something you've seen all season long. But, I mean, how huge was that to just have your guys going down there, not allowing the big returns, and really just keeping them back in their own territory?
Well, it was it's a motto that we live by. We want to be great at special teams. Special teams to us is about effort, not necessarily talent. Those guys bought into that. Our special coordinators, a guy named Rusty Waters, that put a great plan together for us every week. And those guys figured out how to be a superstar in their role. They were magnificent the whole year.
Yes, they were, and I think it's also incredible about this year's run. You look at the past season, the two losses, you had 49-42 to Benedictine, 49-42 to Calhoun. You guys avenged that one with the win. Sorry, you avenged that one by beating Benedictine. Man, did they impress me in their state championship win, just their overall toughness. And then the 35-0 win over Calhoun in the quarterfinals. It was at home. Just describe kind of what the atmosphere was like and just the buzz that was building about this season just with that big statement win over Calhoun.
Well, we lost a game last year to them that, they just played out of their mind. Mm-hmm. We felt like I said, thought we were good enough to maybe win it last, but sometimes you run up on a team that's hot, and you need a play to go your way. We couldn't play that back our way. They made all their breaks. Then you come in, you knew there was going to be a lot of excitement surrounding that game between us and Calhoun, and it was, and for our guys to be able to go out and play lights out, play with a lot of passion. It was a lot of fun seeing us. Not wasn't a revenge game, but it was a chance for us to go out and kind of show the state that we're pretty doggone good.
Yep. And then last question, just what's this going to mean for you guys? First ever state title. You guys just had that great run. Just moving forward for the Gators program, just how you're going to kind of attack next season, and just who's going to be stepping up for you.
Well, that's the question. I don't know. We're going to soak this up and kind of get through Christmas break, and we'll get back. Obviously, we get everybody back in the weight room and start finding out who those leaders are. Mm. And the thing that I think that we'll have going for us is everybody's going to remember what that feeling was like walking off the field Saturday. So we're going to be searching for that feeling really all off season, and these guys are hungry to try to have their at it.
Yep, and then talk a little bit about Jarvis Hayes real quick. I did want to bring him up. He had a big impact, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns. What have you seen from him all season long, just his ability to make the big play?
Well, he's that guy. He's our big play guy. He's from the West Kentucky, and he'll fit for those guys. But he has been that type of cat all year. Our goal is to try to get started early. Go win down until we thought he had a good matchup on Saturday when the number got called, but he made the most of it.
Absolutely. Well, Coach Strickland, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to it. We really appreciate it. We'll be watching what the Gators do in this signing day, and obviously just can't wait to see you guys back on the field next season. One more time, congratulations, Coach.
Appreciate it, Craig. Thank you, bud.
Yep, you bet. All right, go Gators. So very just awesome what Nika Smith was able to do as a junior. He came in and replaced Super 11 quarterback Thomas Castanello. Came in from a Florida school, takes over the offense. They weren't necessarily the highest scoring offense this year, but they did have the playmakers. He handled his role well, just as a junior on a new team with all those big expectations trying to win their first ever title. I talked about how difficult some of their early games were. They had the Appling County one canceled, but then they played Richmond Hill. They were Class 7A school this year that was in that Colquitt, Camden, Valdosta region, a very competitive team. Baldwin, that's a great 4A team. They had a big win in that one. I told you they got that 14-10 win over Benedictine. We all saw how tough that team was in their win over Cedartown. And then Bainbridge, one of the teams that nearly beat Cedartown in the playoffs, that was a 22-16 game. That really prepared them for this 5A gauntlet later in the playoffs. They did kind of cruise through their region. The closest game was in their finale against Coffee, 31-6. That was a big win. Coffee was undefeated at the time. They had a really tough matchup in the first round with Jones County. Thought they were one of the more dangerous number 4 seeds. They came out of that region with Warner Robins and Dutchtown. So they actually played 3 Region 2 teams in their playoff run: Jones County, Dutchtown, and Warner Robins. And then their other 2 playoff wins were the Chambly game, where that one was pretty close early on. He talked about Coach Swank's game plan, and Chambly also has an outstanding quarterback. And then I think he's their school's all-time leading passer. He might have even gotten close to breaking some DeKalb ones this year. And then Dutchtown was a phenomenal team. So really impressive playoff run. But, I want to thank Coach Strickland again for coming on. I know he was busy, and we're going to take a quick break now, though, and then we'll be joined by Najeh.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are a Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So, one of the other things Coach Strickland said was Jarvis Hayes, their top receiver, is going to go to Western Kentucky. And I'm on his page right now. He's listed as having 6 offers. And, yep, that was one of them. The other ones were Minnesota, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Iowa State, Jacksonville State. He ultimately is going to choose Western Kentucky. I think that's a great fit. He's going to be outstanding there. They play a lot of tough teams each year, so that's going to be big-time football, and I was impressed with how he balled out on – that was Saturday. Saturday against Warner Robins on the big stage. He was key for his junior quarterback, Nico Smith, this year. He will be hard to replace next year, but credit to what he was able to do all season long, getting open against some of the top secondaries out there. But, let's bring Najeh on right now. He's getting set up. We had the lights go off in the middle of that interview. I thought, oh no, don't crash Wi-Fi. We've been pretty good in terms of the technical side of the show recently, knocking on wood. But Najeh has been looking at a lot of this recruiting news that's happening. It's a busy day right now. Tons of big signees, and we've been impressed with Clemson. They are racking it up in the state of Georgia. At this point, they have 11 in their class of 2023. They have 11 Georgia commits and only 3 from their home state of South Carolina. So they are really busy in the Peach State, and that's Vic Burley. We saw him for Warner Robins, defensive lineman, 4-star, number 5 player in the state. Number 3 player in the state. Stephylon Green, another defensive lineman. He played at Rome this year. He's the number 6 player in the state, number 13 ranked defensive lineman in the country. So 2 great Georgia defensive linemen. Warner Robins guy and Rome. They'll get a big one. Big boost with that. Those guys are battle tested. Then Zechariah Owens, he's an offensive tackle from Eagles Landing Christian, 6'7", 365 pounds. All right, we'll bring Najeh on right now, and then we'll continue talking about Clemson for a sec. So, all right, Najeh, welcome on. I'm going to name a couple more of these Clemson guys real quick, though, and then you can talk about the breaking news. But Jamal Anderson, Mill Creek, linebacker, he had a great year, a selfless player that came in on special teams, had a big touchdown in the state championship. Avion Terrell, enough said. We know what he's been able to do at Westlake, who I thought was a very competitive team this year that kind of went under the radar how good they were. You had Woodward Academy's A.J. Hoffler. He's an edge rusher. So, Clemson's really stacking up on the defensive side of the ball with this class. Brandon Strozier, a cornerback. D. Creighton from Denmark, a linebacker. He's a stud. and then Robert Billings, a safety. So I'm just kind of putting this together. All these Georgia guys that they're coming in, that's a lot of defensive talent. So what do you just think about that? And then the news you just saw with Khalil Barnes.
Yeah, I think they had one of the better classes, and as he said in his press conference when he committed, he said it felt like home almost for him. A lot of Georgia players are there at Clemson, and he's definitely right. I mean, they really nailed it with this class. I mean, you got Vic Burley, who was I think #2 on the top, recruits in the class of 2023 class. You bring him in, and you landed Peyton Straco, who's a 3-star at the running back position. We'll see what happens. He might not start his first year, but because they have Shipley, who's really good at the running back. But I mean, you bring him in. Now you got the commitment from Khalil Barnes that was just announced. So I mean, you're bringing in a bunch of studs. The defensive side of the ball, they're going to be pretty good. Bringing in D. Creighton, they're going to have Jamal Anderson. They got one of the best safeties probably in the class, and Robert Billings besides Caleb Downs. So yeah, I think Clemson really nailed it with this class. I think they're going to be really good. I mean, they were right there. They had some head scratching losses. Like one was to Notre Dame, and they lost earlier in the season. But I mean, I think they'll be right there when it matters most.
Yeah, and so that's 12 Georgia players we just counted. You have Peyton Straco, the running back, and then Khalil Barnes is an athlete. He may end up even playing defense. So that's potentially 11 out of those 12 are defensive guys. That's huge. You can tell that Clemson's trying to stack that side of the ball. Let's talk about Straco for a second, though. Just how big this offer was for him. I mean, he's a guy that I thought no one really was talking about him until his junior season when he had the big performance against Walton. That was I think a televised game. It was the third one of the season. Walton was coming off a huge kind of opening 2 victories, and then in that game he had 22 carries, 267 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That was his breakout performance. He earned Player of the Week. That got him on the recruiting radar, and then he's just been continuing to get it done week in and week out. And then, I mean, that Clemson offer is just huge for him.
Yeah, it's huge. Before that, he was actually committed to Air Force to go there. Mm-hmm. But all he had before that was Air Force, Army, and Navy. So for them to, basically extend the offer to him was huge. I mean, it really helped him. If he wanted to, he could probably even see, because usually how the ships fall is usually once you get one big one, the other ones will kind of fall. So he could have really waited, but I think he was like, they wanted me, extended the offer, so I'm going to go try to play there. But, I mean, it's just outstanding, for him, where he was at. And, as you mentioned, him having that big game against Walton a few years ago, he got 5 touchdowns, was huge. So, I mean, just credit to him. I mean, when we seen him, I knew he could play ball, and he was really good with the ball in his hands, running the football. He had multiple 3-touchdown games this year. I think he had one where he had over 200-plus yards in a game. So, I mean, he had a really good season. So, I mean, credits to him for continuing to keep going. And, now his hard work is being seen now.
He's a beast. So, I pulled up his numbers against Cambridge's team, which, I mean, that was an outstanding football team. Tons of experience on defense. He had 32 carries, 327 yards, and 5 touchdowns in that Cambridge game. So, man, he is a tough kid. But let's just talk about that for a second, though. I mean, we televised a ton of games this season. We got to see a lot of these playmakers go. I mean, playing in those televised games, I feel like that is so huge for generating the buzz if you have a big performance. And also, I feel like it just gives you leverage in your recruiting process. It's like if you pull off a game like Jeremy Hecklinski had in his first ever season starting. He shared the role last year. I mean, to come out like he did against Mill Creek, you noticed it right away that he was for real. So what do you think about just having the kids playing on TV that's so beneficial to creating that platform?
I think it helps a lot because you're playing against players that probably have 3, 4, maybe even 5 stars. You're playing a level of talent. So then you're being able to see, how you kind of stack up against it. And if you're able to ball out against kind of those talents, it shows like, okay, hey, this kid can play, and then you pick up different offers. A couple of examples. One would be Bryce Dobson, right? So he played in multiple games on TV. First one was the Corky Kell against Norcross. He balled out. He had I think it was the Hail Mary catch that he caught, And then I think he had either 1 or 2 returns for touchdowns in that one. So he already showed his explosive ability, but still, his recruiting hadn't taken off yet. But he showed that he could play against, good, good teams. So then after that, he plays Hall of Fame week. He plays against Grayson. Goes off again. Like the offense struggled pretty much the whole night. Takes a short hitch route, takes it to the house, and then before that, coming out of the second half, he has a kickoff return for a touchdown. And there's also, I think it was a Georgia Tech, coach or something there, assistant. And they seen that. So that's when he got that offer. And then it kind of just took off for him. Then he got a Navy offer. Then Georgia State offered him. I think up to that point he had like a Stetson offer and maybe an Army offer. But it just kind of took off for him. And, I think that's really what it does. I mean, it gives players that don't have a lot of notice, more notice, especially if they ball out. And it just gives them a tape that they can use. Obviously Huddle is great. But if you could show a game tape, if you could show, hey, this is what I did here, go check me out on this platform, like the one that we're building and we're creating was for Atlanta. Obviously, we market the games for PGTV, but if they could go back and say, hey, yeah, go check out Square Atlanta YouTube page. This is what I did on TV. You can see my number. Boom. This is what I did. So I'm showing that I have the talent. I'm able to do so. So I think it only helps. And then now we see Jeremy Kalinsky, who was kind of ironic. Nobody was really talking about him. But I knew, okay, you're playing a upper echelon Mill Creek team. You put up 41 points on them. And you threw for 426 yards and 4 touchdowns. I knew that he could ball in. So from there, no stars. Then upsets Buford. Nobody calls. Everybody's like, nah, there's no way they're going to do that. He wins that. Now he's a 3-star. And then now he's just committed to Wake Forest. So, I mean, it just goes to show you. Again, that's not, our doing, but the platform definitely helps. And then he played in a bunch of, I want to say this too, he played in a bunch of televised games too. He didn't just play in ours. He didn't just play on Peachtree TV. He played on GPB. But being on TV, whatever kind of, team that you're on really helps. And it gives you something that you can kind of lean on. And there's a bunch of recruitment news that's going on, actually, I wanted to talk about. So Jaden Perlott for Buford, he actually signed and committed, I think either this past week or 2 weeks ago to Georgia. He's 2025 class, linebacker, really good. Already got that out the way for him. So he really enjoyed what Georgia kind of meant to him. So he's a Georgia commit. Keywan Brown decommitted from Purdue and just picked up an offer from Louisville. So we're going to see what kind of happens with him in the coming days and weeks. So that's kind of up in the air. Then Connor Lew decommitted from Miami, and now he's going to Auburn, a SEC school. So a lot of things happening in the recruiting world.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that we're seeing a lot of juniors like Heklinski. You mentioned the Buford sophomore committing at this point. I think that just shows how active the entire process is at this point. But I think what you brought up with Bryce Dobson, that might be one of the best examples. In the Corky Kell, he had never even returned kicks before. He was obviously a great – didn't he play quarterback at one point?
He did.
Yeah,
he was the quarterback, I think, for the freshman-sophomore team. Yep. And then because Lonergan actually started or was playing on the varsity team his freshman year. So he was a quarterback freshman and sophomore year. And then he kind of converted to a receiver. And then, like I said, he's another guy, multiple sport athlete. He runs track. He also does swimming. He's in swimming now, I believe. So you just seen kind of him get his opportunity. He really, took advantage of. That's the biggest thing, I think, for the players. If I had to say anybody that's watching or what can I do, just take advantage of your opportunity. It's going to come. I don't know when it's going to come, but it'll definitely come, whether that's playing on TV or whether that's, helping your team get to a state championship. You go and you ball out, all that stuff is going to come. I mean, look at Jontavius Curry, 244 yards, 4 touchdowns, 17 carries in that game. I mean, I didn't really know much about him, but, I mean, look what he did. He was one of the key pieces for them winning that state title. So just keep doing what you're doing. Taking those, like I'll put it like how Jalen Hurts says it. It's all about those daily deposits, man. Making sure you cannot have withdrawals without deposits. So as long as every day you're doing your daily deposits, you're working out, you're doing some kind of agility drills, whatever you're doing at your position, if you're working on it every day, getting in the weight room, getting better, getting bigger, and you're doing whatever you need to do, that's when you're going to reap the benefits.
Yeah, 100%.
And please follow me on Twitter, too, at Najeh Wilk. If you ever want me to analyze your film, I love doing that. That's helped, a couple of players. So also follow me on Twitter if you ever have film you want me to analyze as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it was so huge the way you, Graham, the way you guys clipped out big plays from our games. It's like you can't assume that these guys are like all the college coaches just know everything and they've been just kind of tuned in. It's like sometimes you have to push the athlete out there and get people to notice. I think another example would be Bailey Stockton for Prince Avenue Christian. It's like he obviously has that college attention, but maybe some colleges haven't heard of him. And then he comes in the state championship, plays extremely well with basically one arm as he has his shoulder banged up. And you just see the speed. It's like he's listed as a 4.4 40, but then you watch him play, he breaks off a 69-yard touchdown first series of the game. It's just like, okay, now I can see him. If that game's not televised, good luck finding that clip. It's like you really have to search for it. So I do think it's just so huge. But what else just in terms of the recruiting? You mentioned Keywan Brown. That's going to be interesting, him potentially flipping to Louisville. I mean, who else do you think just from what you've seen that kind of deserves more attention this season?
It's going to be a guy I'm going to actually do. He hit me up in my DM. His name is Chip Cooper. Let me see. He played for – it's ironic. He actually – I think he's seen our podcast too because he put in underrated and overlooked with explanation points and quotes. So I think he's been checking out our podcast. Make sure you guys definitely check that out. But he plays – I'm trying to see where he plays.
Worth County.
He's a Worth County. He's a quarterback and an athlete, 6 foot, 185. So I'm going to definitely try to check out his film and do that before obviously we get into basketball. But I thought him. I thought Aiden Jackson. I mean, he don't get a lot of notice, but I thought, like, for him, I mean, he was – I don't think he still has any stars, but, I mean, he's a guy that balled every time we seen him on TV. I mean, he won multiple players of the game. We did, like, 3 of their games this year. We did the Walton game for them. I mean, the Walton Buford game. We did the Walton Marietta game. We did the North Paulding, the Walton game where he got injured. And then we did actually 4 games. We did the Corky Kell game. So each game I've seen him, I mean, he balled in my opinion. I mean, that's a guy that I definitely think should be playing on the next level. So, I mean, he's another one. Alex Pope out of Shiloh. He's another player. You know, I recommend him for, Georgia League Classic. I thought he had a great season and played for them. Really great coming up to the ball, stuffing the run. He's not a very big dude, but he's 5'9". He really lays down the hammer defensively. Owen Phillips is another guy. I mean, he was on GPB All-Stars, a guy I really wanted to come, to Georgia League Classic too. I mean, he just balled. He had 15.5 sacks. I think I was 4th in the state. He led 7A, really good off the edge in rushing. Another guy that actually coming to Georgia League Classic is Ryan Jenkins. I thought he played really good this season. Really good off the edge, rushing the passer over there at Westover in Macon. Just really a good force. He has a Khalil Mack type play. I tell everybody, if you haven't seen it, please go look it up. I mean, I don't know why that play is not viral, but I actually analyzed his film on my YouTube channel. Go to Sports Talk with Najeh. I mean, I thought that play, Craig, if you haven't seen it, I mean, look it up on YouTube. And then I think it's like the second highlight. I mean, you can look it up now if you want. I mean, it's just incredible what he does. He literally just hits the dude, strips the ball, takes it for a touchdown. I mean, look it up, Craig. That part there is just incredible. Let me see.
That's on our account. I was going to say one more guy, though, that I think is key because he's going to be in the Georgia League Classic is Darius Cannon.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
where are his offers?
I think that's the one that's – let me see. I have to look him up. Let's see.
I mean,
he's a guy that balled
any
all
offers, and he was outstanding this season. So he will be a player to watch at the Georgia Elite for sure. We are going to talk about that a little bit here, and Najee's actually going to be calling that senior game.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. That is going to be epic. They got some teams of interest on according to 0-3 arrivals. North Carolina, Mississippi State, Louisville. Looks like Kentucky. So only 2 offers. Kentucky for them, and some interest with Louisville, Mississippi State, and North Carolina, according to 0-3. So some pretty good schools.
Yeah, that
but only
gives
Kentucky
me a sense that it probably is blowing up for him right now. It's just catching on.
I mean, yeah, he's a stud. I mean, he really helped me kind of go not viral, but I mean, I don't know how he did it, but I was like, who you need to get the ball to? But you could just see kind of him getting ready for that moment. It was like, oh my goodness, like he was starting to go off against the North Forsyth secondary in the region championship game, and I mean, I was just like, yeah, you just got to get him the ball. And he takes a kickoff return for a touchdown. And then he takes a quick low, this inward route, makes a move when the defender freezes him, and then he goes to the touchdown. I mean, yeah, another guy that I think, his thing blew up. So, I mean, that's what it's about, man. So that's what we're trying to do here at Score Atlanta. We're trying to give an unbiased approach. If you guys don't know, we try to be very unbiased. We try to analyze the whole game. And then we just try to give notice and recognition to players that are balling out, some that are overlooked and underrated. That's why we got that podcast. We just try to help Scooby players out, give them a platform where they can go and achieve their dreams on the next level. Because a lot of players, unfortunately, are really overlooked, and a lot of people don't know about them.
Yeah, 100%. And it says Darius is probably leaning towards Kentucky. I think that'd be a great fit for him. I mean, he's obviously going to be good wherever he goes, but I think just in terms of his speed and big play ability, I think he'd fit in well playing in the SEC. Last year's Georgia Elite Classic, so this is the 10th year of it. I'm looking at the senior roster from last year, probably about 50 total guys on it. I did the work yesterday. 40 of them ended up going on to play football at the next level, and then Silas Mulligan, Ware County's running back, I think he took a baseball scholarship to Piedmont. So that's just how saturated last year's game was. Over the previous 9 years, I have over 1,400 names that have gone on to play at the next level. We got NFL guys too. Talk about how special it is, though, for these kids to be able to come to Rome, spend 3 days with players from other schools, and then get to play with them. I feel like that's kind of the first experience of what college is going to be like, because at college, it's like I remember when I got up to UGA, I had players from Milton, players from, all over the place, Westminster, Calhoun, Peachtree Ridge, Douglas. That's what these kids are going to get to experience. So, I mean, how cool is that going to be for them?
You know what, Craig? I actually think it's very important. I think it's cool, too, because now we live in an age where kids are more kind of antisocial. They don't really know how to communicate and interact with people they don't know. So I think that's a critical part as well, because when you go to college, you're going to be put in an environment where you're going to have to interact with people you don't know. People from, so let's say you go, we've been talking about Clemson in Georgia. Let's say you go to one of those schools. You're going to get people from Texas, people from Arizona, people from California, people from Florida, people from South Carolina, all over the place. So you got to be able to be put in an environment where you can interact with them, kind of build those bonds. And that's what's so cool about football. It brings everybody together, almost like a camaraderie, almost like a friendship, like a family kind of bond, because, you have to interact with people from all walks of life. And it's no different when you go to college or when you do your professional career. It's the same thing. You're going to have to be able to interact and be able to communicate with someone on that level in order for you to obtain some success in your life or whatever you want to achieve. So I think it's really important. I think it's super cool because they're going to interact with people, and you never know what bond you might be able to create with somebody, even at the All-Star game. Like, that might be a lifelong friendship that you create just in those 3 days. You never know what it could be, and that can help you. Think about it, Craig. Let's say they go and they ball out or whatever. They go and they have a friend. Let's say the friend's a 2 or 3 star or 4 star, whatever. Let's say the friend knows about a camp. Hey, man, you should come to this camp, Rivals camp. My dad knows all about it. All the major athletes are going to be here. It's like $200 to go, man. You should come. It's going to be in the summer in June. You just made a friendship with somebody that knows about a camp that can get you some more exposure to get you to college or where you want to be at. So you just never know what can come out of it. So always put yourself out to the forefront and, see what kind of happens. So that's kind of my takeaway from it. Why I think it's important, especially nowadays, why I think it's so cool.
100%. And there are going to be some guys that have competed in the games previously. Kyle Vaca, he's going to be in our junior game. He had a touchdown last year for the sophomores. I wish he would have gotten the ball thrown to him more. He was wide open on a lot of plays, but, he had a breakout junior season. His profile is growing tremendously. He was in the run for Region Player of the Year, all-region team this year. But last year's seniors, I'm looking at the roster right now. You have Jacob Ray and Tristan Summers. Jacob's a Cartersville receiver. Tristan is a Creekview receiver. They both end up playing receiver at Berry. So these are two guys that got to play their first kind of all-star game setting together. They end up being college teammates, and there's multiple examples of that. We had multiple shorter players, multiple KSU players, multiple Miami players. So that's something that's also cool is future college teammates are going to be taking the field together for the first time. So that's what makes the all-star setting so exciting. And how do you think the social media is going to be throughout the 3 years with some of these players just having fun and getting to kind of celebrate the spotlight?
Oh, I think it's gonna be epic, man. It'll be something they'll always remember, and social media part will be really fun for them. We've seen freshman Julian Lewis, his social media profile kind of blowing up. So I think it'll only just help them, man. I think it's just another opportunity you get after the season. Because think about it, Craig. After the season's over, and what is it? Let's say it's over in November, before playoffs or October, whatever. Most players, that's it. They go back, they go to off season, they go to get back right for next year. They have no chance to really showcase unless they're invited to other major, showcases like the Georgia Florida or the All American Bowl or anything like that. But if you're not invited to that, this gives you a chance to get the opportunity, and you're playing on TV if you don't get invited to the other showcases. So it's just a stellar opportunity for players, seniors that may not be getting a lot of notice. Let's say they blow up in an All-Star game. What if they have 2 or 3 touchdowns? That's just more film and more things they can show other people. So I think it's huge.
Yeah, and I know Rusty was talking about how the way the game's positioned this year, we usually do it before Christmas. This time it's going to be after. He was saying that's going to allow more of the D2 schools to come, the D3 schools. I think there will be a lot of opportunities this time around. And then, it's just going to be a lot of fun. Just seeing all these different programs represented. And I think the other part of the process is cool is a lot of these kids are nominated by their coaches. So, I mean, this is the 10th year. It's an established event, but they'll come to Rusty, they'll come to Graham, they'll come to you, they'll come to me, and it's like, we want this guy in the game. He's a tremendous student athlete. He's done everything right. And so they're almost like representing their school when they play in that game. So I think that's another kind of cool thing. And then let's say you're the Gwinnett Daily Post. You have a ton of Gwinnett guys playing in this game. You see a couple of them ball out, make a spectacular play. That's great content to continue to promote your style. So I think the media is going to be outstanding also.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You said the school, Craig, you got to think about now as an athlete, you have a brand now. So
Yep.
It's all in how you present yourself. It's all in how you represent yourself. And if you come and you're all business, and you come and your GPA's right, your test scores are good, and then you're balling out on the field, you're setting yourself up for more and more opportunities. Like you said, you can use that film in order to help yourself even more and show like, hey, this is what I did. This is what I'm going to work on for next season. I'm going to strengthen my strengths, and then I'm going to work on my weaknesses. That's it. I mean, that's what I love about the platform. I mean, it's great. It's for them. It's fun. They come in, they get the breakfast, they get the lunch, the dinner, practices. They get to interact with kids. I mean, it's just great. And like I said, as a platform, that's all we're trying to do. And I also want to say this to players. Sometimes it's not all about D1. Sometimes you can go D2, D3. Remember, what's your ultimate goal? Is your ultimate goal to go to the NFL, to the league, or is your ultimate goal to, get your 4-year education paid for where you have opportunity coming out? You can go do D2, D3, and then after 1 or 2 years, you can come up, make sure you're ready, and then, develop your game. And then now, Craig, you have so many opportunities coming out of high school. You got NIL opportunities. Obviously, you have to be big time, but, you have schools like, I think, Georgia Tech. I think Alabama has implemented something where you can get, a deal for just being on the team, just making that roster. You know what I'm saying? Extra money besides your scholarship that you can do. So, I mean, it's a plethora of opportunities. Don't just limit yourself and feel like you can't play if you don't get D1 offers or you can't go D1. Remember, you can always go JUCO. You can always go D3, D2, ball out there. Make sure that you're impressing the coaches. They'll put in the good work for you, and then you can go up to D1, and then you'll be ready. It's all about with players. The biggest thing, and I'll throw it back to Craig. You just got to remember, it's all about putting yourself in the best position to succeed. Sometimes that might be D2, D3 for development. Mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, all that stuff is important. And once you do that, have all those things set up, then you can succeed. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and I remember one of the first years we had long snapper Reed Ferguson playing the game. He's on the Buffalo Bills right now. Kicking-wise, we had Charlie Cooper. He was Tucker's kicker. He played in our senior game last year. He is now kicking for Kennesaw State, and as you said, with the NIL, he's a Barstool-sponsored athlete. So it is going to be really fun, and especially just in this new era. One more thing, though, that I want to talk about, because we had Coach Vandegrift on. He's going to be an assistant coach in the All-American game, and I thought it was so interesting what he said, because I assumed he was the head coach, but he said, no, I'm going to go up there, kind of learn how they how they run their offense in these games, and then hopefully I'll be the head coach later. So I was thinking about that, kind of what he meant by that. They have like an offensive style at these All-Star games. I thought it would depend on who the coach was. He would kind of bring his own flavor to it, but it seems like kind of in that All-American setting, it doesn't work like that. What do you think
No, it
just from the
doesn't. It doesn't
coaching
seem like.
standpoint in like an All-Star game?
Yeah, I think they try to get the obviously the best players on the field. I think he's trying to go up there to see, okay, how are things run? What elements maybe can I learn from them? I can add to my team when I come back down to Prince Avenue Christian. Like he might be thinking as an opportunity he can improve even more as a coach. Because think about it, you're getting different savants and different minds, coming into the forefront. Like, okay, if he's running 3 shallow crossers in a deep route, why is he running that route? Why was that successful in the All-Star game? Obviously, it's an All-Star game. Players are going to go 100%, but it's not like, the hard hitting and how it normally is. But it's just a bunch of things you can learn from the offensive side of the perspective. Maybe you could tell his offensive coordinator, or he wants to incorporate with his team, and then maybe he can keep improving. And then like, hey, I want to be the head coach. Also, could be an opportunity for him to tell him about some of the players he has down there. So I think it's just opportunities across the board. And I think that's why he wanted to be an assistant first to see how things run, and maybe just learn from there. Improving as a
Yeah,
coach.
that will be good. So, yeah, it's going to be an epic 3-day event. I can't wait for it. It's always fun. The players have fun the entire week, and it's just a fun celebration of Georgia high school football that's going to close out 2022 with a couple more games on TV. It will be a celebration for sure. Najeh, thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you in the new year, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So we're going to take one more quick break and bring on Jordan to break some news on the GHSA going back to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then I wanted to ask him a couple questions about the state championship. So I'll see you guys on the other side.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So let's go to Jordan Dubroff. He was down at the state championships a week ago today watching the Thompson win in the Class 2A championship over Fitzgerald. That was the one where Jontavius Curry was just phenomenal with the big playmaking ability. Fitzgerald ran twice as many plays as them, but he was just unstoppable. Really led them with every big play, closed it out with the final touchdown run, and got them, I think, their first state title since 2000 or 2001. And Jordan was down there weathering the elements, reporting from the sidelines. The crowd was deafening. It was very loud, but I know Jordan was enjoying the excitement. So we'll see. Do we have him on yet? I'll just text him one more time. Went a little over the last time. Okay. And yeah, that event yesterday got a lot of attention. Najeh, what were you telling me though about the replay where they weren't necessarily walking it back, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I seen something. I had copied it. I meant to send it to you, but it said like something about it's not in the rules to have it, so it might not be implemented last year. I have to find it.
Okay, so that makes it sound like it's not necessarily going to be voted on where it's a statewide kind of facet of the game rules, but in these big settings like the Corky Kell or state championships, it might be something they try.
So the quote, this is from Nice Round the Game, this is from yesterday. So it says, "We want all calls to be right. Current rules of the Georgia High School Association do not allow for judgment calls for contest officials. They are not reviewable at this time." That's what Robert Hyde said on the stage.
Okay, so yeah, nothing has been set in stone yet. We'll see what happens in the offseason. I do expect the Corky Kell to try to implement something. I just think it's Jordan says he's trying to sneak out of work to come on. He's the man. Yeah, come on, Jordan. But I think yeah, what do you do? Do you just allow referees to make that call themselves if there's confusion? Do you give the coaches a challenge? How do you kind of set the rules around it? I think that will be another question. The way we are going to do it, though, at Georgia Elite, each coach will be allowed one challenge per half, and then the only thing they have to do is they have to talk to the white hat before the next play is run. You can't. I don't think you can challenge penalties, so you can't challenge like a holding, but you can challenge whether or not you get the first down. You can challenge spots, you can challenge touchdowns, and you can challenge, sideline plays, and obviously catches, whether or not the ball hits the ground, all that. So it will be, and fumbles, you can challenge that. So Jordan's trying to get out right now. But obviously that play in the Cedar Grove Sandy Creek game would have been a perfect opportunity to challenge. I think review would have reversed that call for sure. But it has started a conversation. I just think Georgia needs to make that next step. It's 2022. Alabama's done it since 2018, same year as the Georgia Elite has been doing it. It is possible. I think if you just have a camera on the game and someone can review a call, it's like before you weren't allowed to. It's like, no, once the call is made, you can't reverse, you can't do anything about it, just deal with it. Once you allow that opportunity, I think it's going to improve. And it's going to take pressure off of the referees. It's like, it doesn't make their job harder, it makes it easier. So I think it benefits them as well. They don't want to, it's hard to see everything on the field. They don't want to potentially cost a team a game or cost a team a touchdown and then have to, because, it's obviously not intentional. Sometimes you just miss it. And, you never want your game to be on CNN, Fox News, CBS. Basically every outlet in the country was talking about it. Okay, so Jordan's still trying to come on. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, Jordan's at work. They said they won't let him leave. That's okay. But so I was just going to ask him about that meeting. You can go to GHSA.net. They do have a kind of press release about that. It's going to be a 3-year contract to play the finals at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That includes the flag football and the boys. The thing I'm most excited about is finally we will get to have them there on the weekend. In 2017, the first year, it got pushed to, let me make sure if that was 2017. Well, I'll look it up later because I know the stadium opened late because of the roof, but I think it was 2017. It got pushed to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because Atlanta United made the playoffs. I was talking about how difficult that is to get fans, families, and even people watching it to tune in at like a 1 p.m. kickoff on a Monday. People are busy. So I think moving it to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's just going to feel like high school football again. It's not going to be early in the week. And then the year after that, it got snowed out. They only had the one full day there. And then everything got moved to the local schools. And so that was an interesting situation too, because normally you have a neutral field, and then Colquitt County, they were upset. I thought they ended up handling it pretty well though, but they had to make a trip down to Atlanta thinking they're going to play there. It gets snowed out, and then they have to make another trip down right after that to North Gwinnett and play there. so they had to make the 2 trips, and I don't even know if they were compensated for that, but they weren't happy about it. So I think it will just be good to have it back in the bins. Hopefully we can have instant replay and just be on the ultimate stage to show what Georgia high school football has been doing, and I think it's going to be outstanding. But we will be back after January. I hope everyone has a great holiday. Be sure to watch the Georgia Elite Classic in Rome. You can go to scoreatl.com or georgiaeliteclassic.com. You can find all the rosters there. We're going to be writing some previews. We'll have a program out, and then the social media content talking about who the coaches are and what to be watching for with all the coverage. And then we'll have plenty of game day coverage as well. I think there's going to be a lot of media there. It will be fun. So it's an important event. We do want these kids that are trying to get that opportunity at the next level. We need to bring the support, and when they make a big play, let's cover them. So we will see you guys in Rome.